Labor keeping the pressure on Mal Brough, Special Minister of State, over his role in the downfall of Speaker Peter Slipper. Now, someone who was close to Peter Slipper, in fact nominated him, was one of those nominating him to the chair, Labor MP Michael Danby, who joins me now. Thank you very much for your time. You've maintained a keen interest in this whole affair over the last, 3 years or so. What has Mal Brough actually done wrong?
He has allegedly, and this is what the subject of the police raid is about, got a staffer to take the diary, the confidential diary of the former Speaker, to be used for political purposes. Now, that's up in the air.
Sure.
He's Mr. Brough's right, Minister Brough's right to that extent.
But do we know that it is actually an offence to take the or to ask a staff member to copy the diary of another MP?
I think the charges that the federal police have laid with the raid on the house would indicate that if they can establish that this is true, then it would be an offence. I think stealing someone's confidential diary for political purposes might well be an offence.
Well, we don't know where they're going to land on that yet, as you acknowledge. But what is the evidence against Mal Brough?
Mal Brough claims in his defence that paragraphs 122 and 124 of the federal court established that he was innocent of those claims, although that's contradicted with the 60 Minutes yes I did claim. However, the judges, when they were overruling Judge Rares, said that it could be that Mal Brough was doing this to save an innocent young political staffer. It could be that he was acting because of corruption. We can't make a judgment on this yet because the evidence isn't in. And later, David, in February, the judges in the full federal court made it very clear that they had made no judgment about this because there had been no full court case where witnesses could be cross-examined. So
when he stands up in Parliament, as he did again today, and says this was all looked at by the federal court and I was cleared, he's saying that's wrong.
He's at best misguided, and that's any fair reading of the federal court in 2014 and the February full federal court in 2015 show that their honours had not come to a decision because the evidence hadn't been fully put before them, including on the matter of Brough's involvement. So the question is of judgment, of whether a person who's in charge of the integrity of government should be in charge of the Special Minister of State while he has a police investigation against him.
I mean, well, and this is the thing, that you've got the legal question here, and that really is a matter for police, and then you've got the political or ministerial question here about whether it is within the guidelines for any MP to do this. Is that clear cut?
Well, let's go by the government's own standards. When these claims were made against Mr. Slipper, they immediately demanded that he stand aside. And, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I don't see why Minister Brough shouldn't have the same standards applied to him as were applied to Peter Slipper.
Going back to something you touched on, though, if it is seen that he was acting at the time trying to protect a young staffer who he felt was in trouble by the MP he was working for, is that a defence? Is that legitimate?
That's not been established. That's what a claim was, or what could have been construed. I think that from my experience of being in that office in February, March and April 2012, and I would often drop in as you said, as the seconder of Mr. Slipper in the sort of unlikely relationship that we developed. There was no evidence to me of harassment of James Ashby, and I'd be prepared to say that on the record in court or to you here on TV.
Yeah, and Peter Slipper, is he following all of this, do you think?
Well, I'm in contact with him occasionally. His life his parliamentary career, his marriage, his mental health were ruined for a long period of time. He's slowly recovering. But the question is what are the kinds of ethics that we should all abide by? I don't think people should, if this was the case, or in any other case, take people's diaries to provide to newspapers and to sort of ruin political people with expensive lawyers who are willing to fund court cases on the basis of allegations. So that's a bad standard. I think the Prime Minister, who's usually got good judgments, made a mistake in appointing a person with such a controversial record to the very position in which he's meant to have the highest standards of government integrity.
Michael Danby, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me, David.
Quick break. We'll be back with more on PM Agenda.